When we introduced the Grey's Market Shiv last year, it was an interesting time to be able to bring that sort of junker aesthetic into the Star Citizen universe.
It really embodied a style of art called kit bashing and brought it to you guys, the players.
You can approach it in different ways than other manufacturers, so you don't need to adhere to all the typical rules.
I like that we get this opportunity to make these ships that aren't pristine and neat and tidy.
And we're proud to introduce the new addition from Grey's Market, the Basher. Basher is a light fighter and it prioritises guns over literally absolutely everything else.
The light fighter is really fun because they're far more manoeuvrable than the higher fighters in the class.
It's meant for quite close dogfight, especially in close combat ranges.
And this one's particularly well gunned as well, so it's going to give you a lot of firepower.
It's got its 6 size 2 weapons and its 2 missile launchers.
And whilst they are new weapons, they are not bespoke or unique to the ship. You can swap them with other weapons of the same size. On paper, something like this is a challenge to balance. On the first read, you go six guns, that's a lot. They are size 2, so they're not the most powerful guns in the game, but they are perfectly capable of taking on other fighters and dealing damage. But the big consideration with this ship is the size of it. It is significantly smaller than any of the other light fighters in the game.
It's a real trade-off between being a very small compact fighter, which is very hard to hit, but also it's quite very low durability compared to all other ships in the class. You need to be very aware of your piloting skill and you need to be very conscious about all the threats surrounding you, because as soon as you get hit, you're gonna feel it.
The overall aesthetic, as with all of our Grey's ships, it's got this really interesting cobbled together aesthetic to it that makes it very different from the rest of our ships.
So the first thing you're really going to notice on the exterior of the Basher is just how big the engines are in comparison to the kind of like the rest of the body. We wanted the cockpit and the engines to be sat quite far back, and we kind of wanted this almost sort of like hot roddy kind of feel to the vehicle.
You'll see a lot of parts taken or inspired by other ships in the game, and you'll see a lot of Drake parts, Buccaneer parts. There's a bit of the Gladius in there, there's a bit of the Aurora in there.
There's a bit of the Avenger in there too, isn't there?
Yeah, there's all sorts in there. And a few other little surprise pieces.
So when you're working on a ship like this that's got so many different things bodged together, the biggest challenge is what we would call resolving forms. Everything is a sharp edge and everything is like an afterthought.
You walk around and it's a bunch of stacked bits of metal, barely put together. The weapon rack is just a broken fence, and the personal storage is like a filing cabinet welded into the ship.
If it looks bodged, it is. And over everywhere you're going to see cables, you're going to see bits of metal bolted on, rust, all that character that we talked about with what makes this manufacturer so special from an artistic standpoint.
The enter and exit animations are sort of a byproduct of how we build our ships. For a lot of ships we use templated animations, so a lot of the touch points that you use and the position your character moves is shared between a lot of ships. Occasionally we do new animations, such as on the Wharf. But for this one we used the Merlin enter-exit. And we couldn't quite get the character to climb and maneuver over the ship, so we thought, what's a great way that we can integrate this?
This was solved by just cutting a hole in the wing. Maybe it's from a past explosion or fight. Maybe it's from a ship that they already took it was already damaged. We used like different bits of rebar instead of ladders. It's just a fun take on something we've done before.
I think the cockpit is probably one of my favourite parts of the Basher.
The view is unlike anything else we have in the game.
Someone's kind of built this just out of parts. It's not built to be safe.
I like to think of it as like a rally car in a sense. Like it has this kind of mesh wire that's got holes cut in it, almost like they couldn't find a complete bit of mesh that was going to fit the window.
The dashboard on the Basher is very similar to old Drake ships. Everything lights up in different states. So when you turn the ship on, it doesn't just turn on like another ship. There's definitely wiring problems.
It doesn't feel like somewhere you would want to be in a crisis, but you know, you're the person driving into the crisis.
The other big defining part of the cockpit kind of experience and cockpit view is obviously the crane.
It makes the silhouette so interesting and so different that it's a real unique piece to the ship.
This lines up perfectly with the reticle, so it helps with aiming.
And then obviously, if you find you're kind of in combat and that's becoming slightly distracting, you know, you can jump into the front camera and get like a real good zoomed in view as well. So on launch, the ship doesn't come with any kind of cosmetic kits other than the crane, which comes as standard, which you're able to kind of remove if you so wish. But we do hope to explore more cosmetic kits. It gives more options to our players for visual upgrades, and I think it's a really kind of nice and exciting thing to be able to do. The paints for the Basher are kind of what you would expect if you're familiar with the ship's paints.
Some of the things like the default paints as well as the floral pattern and skull.
What we wanted to try and do with the Grey's Market vehicles is give them quite a strong brand identity on top of the visual style we've already established.
Very happy with this ship. It's been great to see it come to fruition.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a really, I don't want to say cute, because it's definitely not a cute ship, unique ship.
I think it adds a new dimension to the combat experience in game, and I think people will have a lot of fun flying this.
Yeah, I know she said junker instead of jalopy.
I did say junker instead of jalopy intentionally.
No, I wouldn't call these jalopies. A jalopy to me is a very specific sort of beetle.
You can stop talking.
I feel like jalopy has a negative kind of connotations with it, and I'm not sure I'm on board with that. I think it's more a junker, I think, rather than a jalopy.
This is me banging my head on the microphone. I need you to say it's a jalopy.
No, I don't think it's a jalopy.
I can't help but just think of like pizza when I think of jalopy. If we ever make a round ship that like has like sections that can like separate off and fly away, then we can call it the jalopy. Okay.